This is my wake up and stretch routine. I do it every morning to loosen up the body and get some energy flowing. Let me walk you through it. I start at the bottom with toe scrunches, just like you're making a fist with your foot and then spreading your toes. 5 to 10 on each side should do the trick. Next I move on to doming, which is a little hard to see, but I'm pulling up the arches of my foot just to get a little activation for those muscles. I'll move on to ankle circles next, trying to make as big of a circle as possible, and 5 to 10 in one direction, 5 to 10 in the other direction. And depending on how your body feels, you could go on the low end with 5 reps or the higher end with 10, 12, heck, even go crazy with 15. Just feel it out. But for the purpose of the video, I stuck with 5, just to be brief. Next, I'll go do some knee circles. Now, your knee joint doesn't actually have much play in it, but it's got a little bit of play. So this will help lube up those knees for the morning. Hip circles next, just like I'm making a big circle with my knee. I'll do 10 on each side, and just one direction for this one. Get those hips nice and loosened up. I usually start at the feet and work my way up, but as you're doing your own routine, you'll find your own rhythm. If you want to start in a different order, that's perfectly fine. Big bilateral hip circles come next, 5 clockwise, 5 counterclockwise. Trying to get a nice big fluid range of motion in there. There shouldn't be any pain involved in any of these joint movements. If there's pain, back off a little bit, see if you can do a smaller range of motion. This is a fun one. I'll try to do some horizontal spinal circles, like I'm trying to move my chest horizontally in a circular motion. It kind of just looks like I'm moving my shoulders, but I can feel my spine going through a nice fluid range of motion there. It looks funny, but I promise it feels pretty good. Same thing with this one. Big horizontal circles for the neck. I feel like a camel when I'm doing this. 5 in each direction. Next I'll move to the scapula, making some big shoulder shrugs up and around. Same thing, 5 to 10 in each direction. I'm trying to maximize range of motion. As you're doing some of these, you might hear the joints making some noise. Typically that's okay as long as it's not painful. Usually we want to stay out of the pain zone. Some shoulder rotations next, like I'm making a football field goal movement. I'll do some elbow circles. Like the knees, the elbows don't quite move in a circular motion, but that covers a lot of the bases for elbow movement. Some wrist figure eights. Let the thumb lead, and then let the pinky lead. And then after those, I'll usually crack my knuckles and just loosen up my fingers a bit. Some more specific neck mobility comes next. I'll do some right and left movement, and you might notice that as I go to one side, I'm stretching and extending the opposite side arm. So I really feel a nice stretch all the way from the top of my neck through my bicep and even a little bit into the wrist. You get that whole line of tissue there. Next I'll do some lateral head movement, and again I'm getting some wrist extension on the opposite side as I go through these, just to facilitate a little more of the stretch. And I'm also pushing my palm down towards the ground, so I get maximal range of motion. I'll do a few head circles, usually about 3 or so in each direction. I have heard some people say, oh, this is dangerous for your neck, and I never quite understood why. Our spine is designed to move in this direction. If you're looking up at the sky, you're going to do it naturally. I don't think this is inherently a dangerous thing as long as you have a healthy spine and haven't had any prior injuries. If you have had injuries, you may need to make some adjustments. Some bigger spine movements come next. We'll do some lateral flexion. I like to add a reach, so I'm getting obliques, lats, and a whole bunch of other muscle tissue in there. I'll inhale as I go into the stretch and use that breath to get some expansion through the inside of my rib cage and just facilitate more of a stretch. And some twists, trying to work every vertebrae as best I can. The hips more or less staying in place on this one. We're just working from the waist up. One of my favorites comes next, a little bit of a spinal flexion Jefferson curl. So I'll start with a bit of extension and then roll down one vertebrae at a time, as low as I can. And same thing, I'll reverse it on the way up, one vertebrae at a time. I'll go through 5 cycles here. If you're doing this in the morning, you'll probably notice the first 1 or 2 reps, you're limited in your range of motion. But by the last few reps, you should be getting some more depth in there as the body starts to wake up and loosen up. If you can't touch the ground with your hands, that is okay. Just work from where you're at. I've been doing this for a while, so I gained a bit of range of motion here. But big stretch both directions. I'll keep my knees pretty darn straight as I go down into this forward bend. After that, I'll do a little bit of picking grape action. This one I just kind of do for fun. As I reach with one arm, I press the hip down to get maximal range of motion through the torso. The next ones I would say maybe more optional, but I love the dynamic work. So I'll do some 3-directional leg swings. First, I'll go forward. I'll do 10 on each side, and I'll use my hand as a target. It acts as a little bit of a safety mechanism so that I don't overstretch. Just like the other ones, you might find that through those 10 reps, you are actually gaining a bit of range in that movement. Next, we'll do a lateral kick to the side. For this one, I use some support just so balance isn't an issue. On all the kicks, you can use support. It's up to you. But I did read in a stretch manual that this type of dynamic stretch can help somewhat set the length-tension relationship in the muscle for the day. So if you do this in the morning, you might find that you're a little more mobile throughout the entire day. And last direction, we'll go to the back. As I kick back, I'm flexing my glute on that kicking leg so that I don't excessively use my lumbar spine. You'll get some lumbar spine movement in there, no doubt, but I'm trying to facilitate hip extension. And on this rep, I kick the couch. Make sure that you have enough space as you're doing these. Hitting 10 on each side. This is a great warm-up. If you actually want to improve range of motion, you might go through these kicks for 3 rounds. But again, it's time dependent. After that, some dynamic shoulder and upper body work. Like a swimmer getting ready for a race. Open it up wide and then hug yourself. And the last one, the magnum opus, big torso twist. I let my hands and arms relax, and I'm twisting everything from the waist up. And after that, I am feeling pretty much awake and loose and ready for the day.